Welcome to the Brigham Young University Family History Library webinar series. Feel free to use the chat box for any questions during the presentation, and we'll make sure they're all answered by the end. You're not logged in. My name is Braden Knutson. I'll be your host for this webinar. We'd like to remind everyone that all of these webinars are being recorded and posted onto our website, as well as onto the BYU Family History Library YouTube channel, where you can check back and watch the videos again if you'd like. Today we'll be pleased to hear from Jean Naisbitt, who will be giving a presentation titled, "It's Time to Stop the Anxiety and Guilt Over Family History." Jean graduated from BYU with degrees in genealogy and library science. She was a stake family history director for 10 years before serving 5 missions with her husband, including twice to Family History Worldwide Support. She is a mother of 7 and a grandmother of 27. Her hobbies are people and genealogy. So we'll turn the time over to Jean now and get started.
Okay, I think this is going to be a fun topic today. I'm assuming that the majority of you are already interested in family history work, so this might be for others that you know that are not and they are full of anxiety. But I'm going to go on with the assumption that you are part of that situation. We need to stop anxiety and guilt over family history work. Okay, so it's not moving. Okay, is this you? You hate genealogy because it's too hard? You don't know what to do or how to start? Or family search is difficult to learn? They keep messing up your family information? And that could be very irritating. You simply hate the guilty feeling of not wanting to do it? Or you really have a desire to learn because Malachi 4:6 says, "And he shall turn the hearts of the children, fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers." Or you're curious to learn if you descend from royalty, or you need to learn for the medical history to help with current family health issues, or you feel guilty and you want the guilt gone, or you have no idea why you are interested. It's just a nagging feeling you have. So you need to set a goal. You need to know, why is it that you're interested in family history work? Well, I trace family history so I'll know who to blame. Guilt gone. Some do that. Others are, why are you motivated to find your ancestors? Because that determines if you will stick with it. The goal to get the ball to the top of the hill is different than the goal to see how far the ball will roll down on the other side. So you need to have a goal and you need to know. Most likely you already know a lot about your ancestors. For instance, what are the first names of your grandparents or great-grandparents? Who are the ones that sailed across the ocean and from what countries did they come? Can you identify grandparents and great-grandparents in a photograph? Do you know who in your family knows your family history mysteries? And that's a big one. If you know them, become their friend. They'll help you. My youngest brother was 7 when Mom died, and he has no memories of her whatsoever. He related, "I've heard stories from my siblings, her siblings, and those who knew her. I've read interviews and histories others have written about her. I've read her journal and a brief history she wrote herself before she died. I've studied pictures of her. I feel I have come to know my mom's likes, her personality, her love of the gospel, her love of her children. I feel I have come to truly know and love my mom as far as possible." And then he added, "How do we come to know and love the Savior? We read his words. We learn his life stories. We read and listen to testimonies of prophets. We pray to know him better. That is how our love for him grows. And I'm here today to testify that is the same with our ancestors. We read their stories, their histories, their letters. We listen to those who knew them. We study their pictures. We pray to find information. We take their names to the temple. That is how our love grows and hearts are turned to them." So we need to throw your guilt away, and it's time to love and know your ancestors. Let's explore 3 major areas: finding ancestors using a computer, family history ideas for non-computer users, and writing your own history. But first, let's check out some helpful hints for your journey of love. 1. Pick one ancestor you want to learn about, not your entire tree. And why only one? Because trying to identify the entire tree brings on anxiety, stress, and depression. The person you pick should be someone you knew. It could be someone you knew, like a parent or a grandparent or an aunt and uncle, a sibling, or someone who lived long before you were born. Do not pick the end of the lines. They are the ends for a reason. Perhaps their records are not yet available. Work with family members as a team. 4 of my children picked, and myself, have picked different ancestors of interest, and cousins have also picked other lines, and it surprised us that none of us have duplicated one another. The thing I love about this photo, and I use it in a lot of my presentations, is that the 3 on the right claim they are not interested in family history work at all. However, the 2 women have taught their children, even as young as 7, how to do indexing. And the boy in the center there is a seminary teacher, and he has begun asking me questions about my ancestors, cloaking it with, my son wants to know about this or that. And his son is 1 or 2, and I laugh because, I write him little text back, sweetheart, you just bring tears to my eyes, because that's family history work. And so is indexing. I don't let the girls know that because I don't want to discourage them. Okay, so we need to start from the known and work to the unknown. You know they came from Scotland, but you do not know the name of the city. You know they died in Ankeny, Iowa. So begin in Iowa and follow their lives backwards through death records, census, whatever. Start from the known and work to the unknown. You need to learn where they lived and when. Where did they move to and from? Records could be in any of those places. So this is movements of one of my great-grandfathers in the 1800s. Different records are available for different places and different years. For instance, parish and church records, most available are between the 1500s and 19. However, you can find them earlier in that, but they are pretty rare. Emigration records, they will vary. Census records, the first good ones in England were at list people's names, 1841 to the 1900s. In the United States, it's 1850 to 1940. We have those accessible to us. Land records, they would vary according to history. Newspapers, military, they also vary. But an important hint to remember is records are being digitized and indexed and uploaded daily. What wasn't there last year might now be there or in the future. Keep checking. Has this happened to any of you? Just before the entry you need, the records will end, and they will begin again 2 years after the date you need. This is me. I have a parish in England that stops, and I've tried different sources to find those missing gap years and haven't found them yet, and it can be frustrating. Document what you find, otherwise it is only hearsay. It doesn't matter how thorough your Aunt Blanche's records are. If there's no documentation, then it's only hearsay. So try as much as possible to document what you find. For instance, this situation, family Bible in possession of Aunt Merle until the tornado hit Topeka, Kansas, and now only the good Lord knows where it is. Well, that would be kind of hard to verify that, but there would obviously be other records available. But that's a good excuse, I guess, if you can't find a record. Make a timeline of birth, marriage, death dates, including children, and also location of where those events happened. This is my great-grandfather. He came from Wales. He married at age 17. His wife had their first baby when he was 19 and a half. When he was 29, it shows that a son was born in New York City. So that gives you a time frame of when he left Wales and immigrated to the United States. A son died a couple of years later in Paradise, Utah. So between 1867 and 1869, they had made it here across the plains of the United States to Utah. Then you have a daughter being born in Salt Lake City. And 2 years later, or a few years later, a son is born back up in Logan, Utah. I don't know why the daughter was born in Salt Lake, but that would be something to check, whether it was a mistake of those who entered the information or they had traveled to Salt Lake for some reason and a baby was born, but that would be a hint of where I might want to start looking. And then you have a daughter who died at age 36. No location is listed and no spouse. So she was in her 30s. Could she have married? And other information, or was there a reason why she didn't marry? You don't know. But that would be another hint of something to look for. And then he died at age 96 and he was living in Logan. So through this simple timeline, being able to kind of trace his life, where he was, when he was there, and what was happening to them. Timelines can be really invaluable. So try those hints to find ancestors and then share that information using a computer. What are you writing there, Mom? I'm writing down this recipe for shepherd's pie. I found it on the internet. Well, why are you writing it down by hand? Why don't you just print it out? I can do that? Absolutely. Computers are your friends. They can help you do a lot of the work. Family Search. This is one of my favorite places for doing family history work on a computer. And now this popped up in my email last week that they have found a name that I can take to the temple. It will show relationship, and then I can reserve the ordinances for temple work. So to show you the process of that, I went to her, clicked on her name, and up came this. Dates and New York, which does not tell me how I'm related, and it doesn't tell me a whole lot anyway. So then I clicked on her pedigree chart, and I found that there are actually 3 people that could have some temple work done. That would be especially interesting if I can prove a relationship. So I clicked on these 2 icons, and up came this information. Showed that she was in New York in 1875. He gave the city and county, and her parents' name. So that's always really good information, more than I had before. And I can review her information there with the information above from Family Search, and it also lists a spouse. I still do not see how I'm related to this person. There are no sources attached, which is telling me that if I determine that these 2 are the same person, I can attach that source. And the couple, because they have a couple defined by showing a husband's name, the couple right here could have had children, but no children are listed. Still wanted to find out if I was related to her, so I went to relationship. And up popped this, and you can scroll down. This is my line, this is her line. Didn't recognize anybody there, but when I got to this, I recognized these names, and then here I am, and that's my mom, etc., and this is her. So, okay, I'm related to her, and it's not too far of a relationship, so that would be something I'd be interested in, taking her name to the temple. Click here. Up comes this. I want to request ordinances, and it allows you to request as many as you want, and I wanted to do all 5 because she's a female, and up will come this. I need to check that I have complied with the church ordinances policy, and this will come up, add to temple list, which I clicked on, and there they are, the ordinances. You can see the top blue how I can print this off, take it to the temple, I can share with family members, or if I find that I'm not going to make it to the temple, I can unreserve it. This lets me know that it's not been printed yet and who it is that's reserved it. The goal of Family Search is within 2 years, if this work has not been done, they'll pull it back and put it in the temple file, which is good. You don't want to keep it there forever. So that was easy. Sitting in my home, I could go there and find information and take it to the temple. Another way to do that is through Family Search Descendancy. They call it Find Your Cousin. What you need to do is I use the fan chart because it shows more of my ancestors than just a pedigree chart on one view. Select an ancestor that was born at least 110 years ago, because that will give you tons of descendants. And I've picked Samuel Rich, born in 1770. Now here he is as a key person. I'm going to go up here to the descendancy view where I click. Shows descendancy. I'm going to want 4 generations, and you can see that it's given me 4 generations. And over here, it lets me decide what it is that I want. I want to select ordinances. I want record hints. I want research suggestions. I want to know what the problems are. Born in 1770, I doubt there'd be any portraits, and spouses added, etc. So here's this list again. We have one showing that Adam Robert Rich can have his temple work done. And the only thing needing to be done would be sealing to spouse, and that's a request that can be made and go through the same steps that I've already showed you. So what can you find if you use the hints? Let's take a look at this. This lets me know that there is a gap of 4 more years between the birth of one child and the next sibling. So let's use these suggestions and see how it works. What records are available for that time period of when that person lived? 1848, 1894. If they were still in England, 1837 began civil registration, so you could look for birth, marriage, death records, or of course parish records and census. Here's another one. Person may have had another spouse because the one died when they were young, and this person, the remaining one, could have remarried. Again, the years are 1868, 1948. If they're here in the United States, of course, you've got vital records, really good census, and church records. Those are really good suggestions of what you might do to find ancestors. So you can do research on some records right in your home with FamilySearch.org search section. So you go here to the main page and you want search. There's two options it gave you. I put in this woman's name and the years that she lived. I didn't even put what city she was from, just basic to see how it would work. Off to the right you'll see a map, and it pulled this up. And you can click on whatever part of the world your ancestors came from, and those are the records you want searched. I picked the United States, and I picked Utah. And then I clicked on search, and it brought up these records. All of them are census record for this particular person, and since I didn't know a whole lot about her, that was cool to find these many records that I could go and search right in my own home. Off to the right, you can see details and image. The letter-looking one on the left is information that's been gathered and typed up so you can read it. On the right, if there's a camera, you'll notice the bottom one does not have a camera, but if there is a camera, you can go and actually look at the actual record right there in your home. There she is, the wife of Parley. You look above her and there's James, and he is age 63. Most likely, James is the father of her husband Parley, who's 46. You've got family member names, you've got the street of where they lived, and in the 1840 census, which this is, it gives you a lot of other information as well. All done in my home within 10 minutes. How can you not think this is fun? Being able to find people, find your ancestors, and take a name to a temple. Okay, let's look at some identify some of the problems. Here's one that just has a name Saul, and clicked on that little red square. What is the problem? Well, it shows that the child was born later than the mother after her death. So she died in 1784. He was born in 1786, and actually that would be really hard to determine if she'd been buried for 2 years whether or not she'd had another baby. So most likely this child does not belong with this mother. And that would be something that I would want to go into those files and find out who is this little baby, and let's get him or her connected with the right family. What does an orange temple mean? It means that there's a possible duplicate. Oh, I don't know about things like that. I'm just learning. How am I going to fix that? So click on Learn, and down comes this screen, and it shows you step by step. Go to the person, possible duplicates, and merge or not merge. So it's so helpful to have this information available to me at my fingertips, and I can go at my own speed. What about a blue temple or green? It tells you that this work's in progress. Someone's already turned this name in. So, okay, I don't need to worry about this person unless it's still there 5 years from now. Let's look at a record hint. This person's been found in Find a Grave, so let's see the details for this person. What we have in Family Search is on top, and then below Find a Grave is on the bottom. So we need to decide if these two Elizabeths, the ones on top and the one on the bottom, are the same person. This is not the way to decide if they are the same person. And trust me, I've looked at records in various places, and I think, how did those people come up with that conclusion, like that Saul baby? I mean, obviously he wasn't born 2 years after she died, so do not use that. I'm sure some people think that's the best way, but it is not. Compare the information. The one on top that Family Search has said that she was born in Tooele, buried in Rush Valley. The cemetery source shows that she was buried in Rush Valley, Tooele, so it appears that it would be the same person. She has no sources attached. Now you can attach that source to that baby and have that information available for everyone. Record hints now show up right in the pedigree view, which I think is great. You don't need to go to descendancy anymore. And right from here, you can see where the problems are and what you need to do. Like this one. Possible missing child. The last child was born 4 or more years before the mother turned 40. I happen to know this couple. She's my second great-grandparents. They both were, and they divorced. She had more children, but not by him. But that was a good hint. If I didn't know that, that would be something to follow. You might also see this. and wonder, what am I going to do with this? This system has found too many names to download and the number of generations you have selected from the number. Consider asking for fewer generations or selecting a different root person. And the reason why is because it's been trying to populate this and it's not coming down. You cannot see whether the temple is, work ready to be done or what. And just because it looks like there's tons of green temples, there aren't. By the time that we're to populate, there might not be any, or might only be one. So go back to the root person and only pick maybe 2 generations or 3 generations until it populates. Will you remember all of this? Absolutely not. But you know what? Don't get anxious over it. Get help or rewatch this again until it sinks in. One of my very favorite things about Family Search are the memories section. It is just so fun for me. I have a hard time staying away from it. It is connecting distant families worldwide. You can go in there and add to a person their memories. Memories can be attached to them. Obviously, you can't give them their own memories. It's their own selves. But this is a picture of my dad, little Lloydie. Is that cute? He was the first grandchild born in my grandmother's family, and that was sent to her nephew on a mission. I had never seen that before. I had also never seen this picture before either. This is a picture of my dad, his mom, her mother, her father, who are my great-grandparents. And they are in Brighton, which in Utah, it's in the mountains with trails and squirrels and dirt and rocks, and they're up in the mountains, and look how they're dressed. The women are in dresses, and my great-grandfather is in a 3-piece suit with a top hat. I think that's amazing. What a fun picture. I had never seen that before. Some distant relative had it and knew who they were and uploaded it, but that's what I love about this picture. Here's a grandfather hanging on to my Uncle Ray, who was probably around 2, trying to run around and get lost. Is that not a fun picture, of which I had never seen? This is my grandmother. I do not know who this woman is. She doesn't look like my grandmother. My grandmother had curly hair. Doesn't look like her. So I put a thing out there saying, really confused. Who is this lady? I received a reply back from a niece of my grandmother who's 85. And she's, oh, that's my Aunt Florence. I'm going, no. But I didn't want to question someone that's 85. But this is what I thought was fun. There's my grandmother as a baby, and this is one of my grandsons. And I want you to notice this. Look how much they look alike through the eyes and the mouth and the forehead. I haven't told him that he looks like a woman yet, but I mean, he will change as he gets older. But what a fun thing to discover. My grandmother as a baby and a grandson that looks just like her. So let's look at this picture. I think this is a fun picture. There's my grandmother. See, she's got the curly hair, and she's hanging on to my grandfather. And they were in their home. That's their home. I remember the drapes in the mirror. And I don't have a picture of my grandfather smiling. Those are not his real glasses. There's my grandfather. You can see it's the same man. I wish he didn't have on the silly hat and glasses, because that's the only picture I have of him smiling. What a fun thing. I get so excited about this. So then I've uploaded pictures as well. You go in, you can upload to memories and give them a title. These are my cousins, and you can also add a description. We have a family reunion every New Year's Day. In a description, I would want to put, and I need to put, that that's my cousin Burke, who died a few years after this picture was taken. All the rest of them are still alive, so I cannot go into their pages and see their pictures, but you know what? I can go into Burke's, and it's already listed there. Fun thing about this is it lets you make up some albums that you can put them in. So I have put them in South New Year's Day family reunions. I could also put them in South Edward and Sarah's grandchildren, because we are their grandchildren. And because my siblings are in this picture, I have also put them in Lloyd and Ruth's family. So just by selecting where I want it to be and putting it in there, I can go to my own self, because I can access myself, and there I'll find this picture. And the other relatives, I can also give them the URL or the address of where they can see this picture in Family Search Memories, and they can go access that even without having an account. Each person, no matter how ordinary, has extraordinary members to share, and we need to add those memories. You can now also add documents, original documents that somebody has and not everybody has. This is so great because I don't have to have it in my possession and I can still read it. Stories. I love this because people are adding stories. My grandfather here was a locomotive engineer and took the first railroad car into Wyoming, but here is a member of his crew. Now, would that not be fun to read? You can also add audio. My sister has added audio about my parents, and that is so fun to hear. But what I like about this is my grandfather's daughter great-grandfathers wrote this history about him, and all of these stories she lists of what he did as he was younger, she would have heard from him firsthand, and it's a treasure. You can also, with computers, get involved in indexing, and that's making records available and searchable online. We're not going to talk about it, but just to let you know that a lot have already been indexed, and they continue to be indexed. And that's where we find those records that we can search while we are in Family Search. Okay, let's look at some things you can do if you are not a computer user to throw away that guilt. Organize what you already have in your home. Put histories, documents, photos in a box, a plastic bin, or a file folder. I think you'd be surprised at what you find. Boyd K. Packer said, "Several years ago, Sister Packer and I determined that we would get our records in order. However, under the pressure of church responsibilities with my travels and the obligations with our large family and a home to keep up both indoors and outdoors, there just was not enough time. But we were restless about this family history responsibility, and finally, we decided that somehow we would have to make more time in the day. We gathered records together. We gathered together everything we had, and in the course of a few weeks, we were amazed at what we were able to accomplish. The thing that was most impressive, however, was the fact that we began to have experiences that told us somehow that we were being guided, that those beyond the veil were interested in what we were doing. Things began to fall into place. We found things we had wondered about for a long time. It seemed as though they came to us almost too easily. More than this, things we had never dreamed existed began to show up. We began to learn by personal experience that this research into our families is an inspired work. We came to know that an inspiration will follow those who move into it. It's just a matter of getting started." So, review what you've already discovered and found, and you'll be surprised. Like I found the birth certificate of my oldest brother, tons of these long pedigree charts and family history, family group sheets that have information that's not always uploaded onto Family Search. Heirlooms of my great-grandmother. That couch, I can remember it in my grandmother's home. It was her mother's. They haven't refurnished it. It's not in my home. It's in my cousin's home. And I can remember where it was in the house of my grandparents, a little window alcove. The smiley face is actually a water pitcher, and we laughed because we thought that face looked like my grandmother's brother, Uncle Charlie. Pictures. You can find pictures too. There I am. I love this picture. I use it a lot, but it shows that my mom wanted us to be seen in the picture, and obviously my mother and my sisters, you can pick them out easily. I love that. Do you have a history on them? Have people given you histories over the years? What did this person leave? Did they leave a journal or personal letters? Do you have access to any of those? Genealogy research takes time. The only fast way to do it is to run for political office. But if you don't want to run for political office, there are other things you can do. You can talk with relatives to see what they have in their homes. You don't need to redo, just add to. That's why you work together. Search for ancestors' photos in those stored shoe boxes. I went to a lecture from the curator of the University of Utah Museum of Pictures and Fine Art, and he said one of the best places to store your pictures are in shoe boxes for some reason. There's my mother. This picture is actually in the Family History Library in Salt Lake on the British floor. And for years I didn't know that boy was holding my Uncle William, but it's proof that Uncle William really was, at one time, a baby. I love stuff like that. Label your pictures. This showed up in Family Search, labeled as 1948, but my grandfather died in 1946, and this baby was born in 1941. That baby and I submitted to Family Search the fact that Grandpa was dead in 48, and just on Monday, I guess the one who submitted it had gone in and read my remarks, changed it, and labeled it now as 1941. I cannot change something that someone else has submitted as far as like the title of a picture, but the one who submitted it can. So that was kind of fun. Look how excited my father is to be at another in-law family gathering. Okay, plan a reunion. We have this reunion on my family, and it's been over 60 years. None of us can even remember exactly when it started. We just know we always went to one. This year we had over 130. We never know how many's going to show up, and we think, well, maybe we ought to cancel it, and we don't. It's potluck, a simple program, and we all leave and we're home by the time the big football games come on. But I just want you to notice something. I've circled this young man as a baby, and he's older than that. This is an old picture. But you know what? My children don't know that you can do other things on New Year's Day than go to a family reunion, because they have been doing it for years and years, which has been rewarding because they know their second cousins. You can also pay attention when you hear stories and folklore about your ancestors. Tell those stories to your children and grandchildren. Stories generate interest faster than pedigree charts. Don't underestimate the power of storytelling. Try to make them, however, as accurate as possible. Here's an example. Oh, we'll get to that in just a second. Do some of your ancestor stories make you want to chop down your family tree? Don't do it, because there will be plenty of stories on others that will warm your heart. Okay, some of my favorite genealogy treasures are what my ancestors tried to hide. I'm going to tell you a story. It is not about this man. So if you are related to this man, this is not his story. The children of a prominent family chose to give Grandpa a book of their family's history. The biographer they hired was warned of one problem. Uncle Willie, the black sheep, had gone to Sing Sing's electric chair for murder. The biographer carefully handled the situation in the following way. Uncle Willie occupied a chair of applied electronics at one of our nation's leading institutions. He was strongly attached to his position by the strongest of ties. His death came as a true shock. Well, actually, the facts there are all correct. It's just the way it was worded, and that's a fun story. You can have fun with family history, although after telling that story at a reunion or something, I would also want to tell them the truth, but it still makes it fun. Interview your oldest living relatives. If you are one of them, have someone interview you. I have done this, and I've even typed up what they've said. And you know what? My cousins have been loving what I did 30 years ago. Write, record, or type your stories you've heard. All of this is family history work, and it will help hearts turn towards their fathers. This is all family history work. Sometimes in our heads we think the only thing that's family history work is poring over microfilm machines or writing tons of letters and mailing them out. This is all a part of family history work. Write histories on your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your aunts, uncles, and your cousins. You knew them, your descendants did not, and if you don't write their histories, who will? Well, hopefully their children will, or other relatives, but if not, make sure you get yours in there. And then use social media to share with relatives stories, photos, and histories. What are you doing, Sylvia? Fluttering? Fluttering? You know, that internet chatting thing where you tell your friends every silly thing you do? Oh, you mean twittering. Yes, I'm sending a tweet. Neato, are you going to tell your friends that I'm standing here in my pajamas? No. Oh, well, then tell them I just came from the bathroom and I left the toilet seat up. They'll get a kick out of that. This social nitwitting thing is a hoot. Mother, come get Dad. Okay, we might not understand how to use Facebook, blogs, Pinterest, texting, Twitter, tweets, and more, but the rising generation does. They might not answer their phones, but they will respond to media. Share stories and photos with them through what they are familiar with. I am finding tons of family history pictures showing up in our little family Facebook connection. And don't forget to remember to write your own history. It does not need to be large. It does not need to be long, because that will cause anxiety. You don't want to look at the end product as you're beginning the first, because that will cause anxiety. One of my aunts did her history in segments. The chapters were something like this: parents and siblings, husband, children, grandchildren, schools attended, jobs held, missions served, church callings, friends, life's lessons learned, testimony of the Savior. It has been a treasure for her descendants and one niece. I had to beg her for a copy of her family history, and she said to me, "I will not put you in my will." I said, I don't need to be in your will. Just give me your history, and that makes it easier for me. I can say, okay, I can do segments. I don't need to do a whole life. I can do segments. What on earth made you decide to write a memoir, Earl? I just thought it would be a shame not to put down on paper all the wisdoms I've acquired over my long lifetime. So how much longer do you think it's going to take you to put all that wisdom down on paper? All done. Wow, almost a whole page. Even a little bit is better than none at all. You can also retype handwritten journals or make photocopies and then share them. My sister did that. She took my mom's journals, typed them up, and sent copies to families. Now that would have cost a lot of pennies, typing up time-wise, but then photocopying them and then mailing them all out. And she did it over several years. Sister also, in the meantime, gave birth to 10 children. Now she could just put that on to the computer. You can save copies of letters you sent. Computer makes that easy. Keep those copies. You can have them, like I did, I put them in paper. You can also have your computer as emails. I have my journal. Listen to me. I have my journal as emails. I can take, if I have written something about an ancestor that I think, oh, this is really cool, or something that's happened in the family, I can just buzz it over to email in my journal. The thing that's important is you need to make sure that you have these backed up in several places, like a jump drive or a portable hard drive, like a terabyte size, or in the cloud, or paper copies. But journaling can be a lot easier than it used to be. Henry B. Eyring said, "When our children were very small, I started to write down a few things about what happened every day. I came home late from a church assignment. My father-in-law surprised me as I walked towards the front door of my house. He was carrying a load of pipes over his shoulder, walking very fast and dressed in his work clothes. I know that he had been building a system to pump water from a stream below us up to our property. He smiled, spoke softly, and then rushed past me into the darkness, on with his work. I took a few steps towards the house, thinking of what he was doing for us. And just as I got to the door, I heard in my mind, not in my own voice, these words, 'I'm not giving you these experiences for yourself. Write them down.' I went inside. I didn't go to bed, although I was tired. I took out some paper and began to write, and as I did, I understood the message I had heard in my mind. I was supposed to record for my children to read, someday in the future, how I had seen the hand of God blessing our family. Grandpa didn't have to do what he was doing for us. He could have had someone else do it or not even have it done at all. But he was serving us, his family, in the way covenant disciples of Jesus Christ always do. I knew that was true, and so I wrote it down so that my children could have the memory someday when they would need it. Decide today on one thing that you might be interested in trying. Find a name and take it to the temple. Find cousins and family search and do research from the hints. Do some indexing. Upload photos, documents, and histories into family search memories. Organize and find what you already have in your home. Write an ancestor's history or your own. Label photos. Plan a reunion. Listen to family folklore. Tell ancestor stories. Interview older relatives. Keep a journal, or do whatever you're inspired to do, and then share your information. But for heaven's sakes, do not look at this list and think you are to do everything on this list, because that will bring on anxiety. Pick something that maybe you have never tried. Or if you've already tried some of these things, go on to something else. Don't think that you have to do all of this in order to be saved. You don't. You just need to pick one that gets you interest going, and then you can spread out a little bit. You're already doing some of those things? Well, then for heaven's sakes, stop feeling guilty. Family history does not need to be depressing. It can be fun, exciting, and rewarding. Just remember, don't take life too seriously. Every genealogist knows no one gets out alive. Not all ancestors were rich and famous, but each have a story to be told, a reason to be remembered, either for good or bad. Gordon B. Hinckley said, "What a blessing family history, research, and temple work are in behalf of the dead." A man once said to me, "I'm saved," in a rather boisterous tone, and I said, "What about your father, and your grandfather, and your great-grandfather?" He said, "I guess they've gone to hell," and I said, "Are you more deserving of the blessings of the Savior of the world than those who gave you life, and through whom your inheritance has come of mind and body and spirit? Can there be a just God who is not a respecter of persons who would deny the one group that which has been freely given to another?" If our desire is to know and love our ancestors, then if our desire is to know and love our ancestors as we know and love the Savior, then these promised blessings will come and bless us and our families eternally. Thank you for joining us today, and may your journey be one of success and fun.
Thank you very much, Jean. That was an excellent presentation today. We'd like to thank you all for joining us today as we close, and that all of these presentations are being recorded and uploaded onto our BYU Family History Library webinar website, as well as onto our YouTube channel. We'd like to ask everyone to go to the website here at the bottom and open up our schedule for this month so you can see what webinars we have coming up so you can join us for the next one. We thank you for joining us again, and we'll see you next time.